Good evening. I'm Evan Hewitt, and with me is Natalie Campbell. We'll be looking at the Coronavirus Community Preparedness Forum. That's where we are in discussion, Natalie.
Of course, and this would have been an event held in Onoxaby, but obviously, with all the changes that have been implemented with the gathering and numbers, we have had to take that discussion into the studios. And so here we are with.
Professor Marvin Reed and Dr. Shane Alexis. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening. Great to be here.
Great to have you at IRI FM with all these smiling faces. I don't know what would have happened that could have caused you to be so happy.
Reggae in the morning.
Crisis time.
Reggae in the evening.
Crisis time. COVID-19 has struck us, and in no uncertain way, it's coming, Natalie.
Yes, and just before this, for those who are listening on the airwaves, you would have heard a number of measures implemented by the government to further contain the spread. And so it's a important time to have this discussion so that our people are fully aware of what it is that they should be doing. And so we've been talking about coronavirus, and I'm sure we have defined it a lot, but we could always define it again. So, Professor, let's start by telling our listeners, what is this coronavirus?
They refer to it as novel. Why is it novel?
Well, it's novel because roughly it's just about 3 months old.
Oh,
So it's relatively new. And as such, almost all of us within the world really doesn't have any immunity to it. It's relatively new to the human race, the human population. So it's really a virus. A virus is one of the smallest infectious agent that we know. And as is typical of most viruses, what it can do is that it causes an infection, and the consequence of infections is that you feel sick, and if it's really, really bad, it can cause you to die, as we have noted.
Many theories have been spread around, some sounding rather conspiratory. Um, it has gotten to us somehow, and it's here now. We have 12 confirmed cases. How do we prepare for it? Is it that when you catch it, you die?
All right, so a few things. You've actually asked several questions in one. So the first thing is its origin. The second thing, how serious it is. So let's see if we can try and figure out each of these things. So all organisms, whether you're talking about a human, whether you're talking about an infectious agent like a virus or a bacteria, as we reproduce, our DNA material or genetic material has the opportunity to change. That process, we call it a mutation. Some mutation are induced because of just randomness. Some mutations are induced because of environmental things like radiation and so on. In the infectious agents, because they're so small, they reproduce much faster than us in humans. And so what you will find is that it's easier for them to undergo the mutation for us to actually see it. What we can say is that this new virus or novel virus is a mutant of its brothers or its sisters, meaning its DNA sequence, which defines how it looks and its characteristics and its properties, has changed slightly. And because it has changed, it means therefore that it behaves a little differently, and therefore it causes a bit of an infection. We can always debate as to why that mutation occurs, and I don't think for this forum it's really necessary why it has occurred. The fact that it is here. The challenge we face is the fact that none of us, as I said, has any immunity to it because we have never been exposed to it before. And so we capture that by calling it novel because it's relatively new. It comes from the family of what we call coronaviruses, which is just a family. In medicine, we like to name things in groups when they have some degree of similarities. What we can say is that based on its family characteristics, its cousins and its so on, it probably the reservoir that it came from was probably some bats. But exactly whether or not it was created in the lab, to which country did it's really not important. What is important is that it is here. So now that it is here, the question you ask, how serious it is. Well, the truth be told, if we were just to look at raw numbers and individuals who watch the media, whether it be TV or radio, we'd be captivated by the number of deaths. And so we hear 10,000 people dying, or 1,000 people dying, or 200 people dying, and so on. And so that captivates us. But the truth be told is that the more important number is your bottom number. So typically in science, what we do is that we put the number of deaths over the number of persons who have been infected or exposed. So that bottom number is the most important number. And when we do that and then compare it to other illnesses that have been around, we find that it's not so bad. So we recognize that, and you'll hear a term called case fatality, which is the number of persons who have died based on the number of persons who have gotten the illness, is roughly on the order of about 3%. What that means is that 3 out of every 100 persons who get this infection will die. We anticipate that perhaps by the end of the year, when we have more numbers, that number may actually fall to probably about 1 or 2%, because there are regions where it's less than 1%. So the important message, if I'm to summarize what I've just said in the last 5 minutes, that ain't long, is that it is an important illness, but for the vast majority of persons, it will not kill them. So the death numbers look bad in terms of the absolute number, but the vast majority of persons will get sick, but they will recover and not die.
All right, and bringing Dr. Alexis into the conversation, what is it, though, that most people will experience? Because you're saying most people will not die. What will most people experience?
All right, so Shane has deferred again to me. The main thing really is that almost most people will have fever. Mm-hmm. They will have some degree of what we call cough, sore throat, the typical symptoms of a flu. So they will have some what we call body pains and so on. If they may also have a little bit of shortness of breath. Very rarely they may have a little bit of diarrhea and so on. But the most important thing is really the fever, which is why if you go as one of the screening methods that has been employed is really the fever test, because almost everybody invariably will have a fever. Cough is a little bit, and then some of the joint pains and body aches and so on.
So how then does one prepare for an illness of this nature, Dr. Alexis?
Thanks for having me. Let me just start by saying, it's really good that we could have this kind of program on IRA FM, because not just the people that follow this station, but one of the things that Marvin and I have been doing for years is trying to bring health into the public discussion. So not just when persons are sick that we talk about health, but health is on the front burner. All of us depend on our health to keep our families together, keep a roof over our head, put food on the table. Without health, we really don't have anything else. At this time, we, as you said in your opening remarks, we had this as a public forum in Anata Bay, St. Mary. And by way of declaring my interest, the truth is that I am a caretaker. I am in politics, but long before politics, I've always tried to do my best to increase and improve public awareness on several issues going back years. And Marvin has been someone I've worked with over the years and has been a real source of scientific knowledge. And we felt that a lot is not discussed in rural Jamaica, that a lot of our discussions have been Kingston-based, really focused on urban, and it's true that that's where the first case sort of came from. Bull Bay is not quite Kingston, but the Kingston metropolitan area. And I felt that we really needed to carry not just the expertise, but awareness right across Jamaica, in particular, the nooks and crannies, rural Jamaica, because we really don't know where a tourist worker might come from. We don't know where the person that serves you in a supermarket or restaurant might come from. And they're not always, in the easy to find places. So given the current or anticipating the Prime Minister's declaration this evening, we opted to work with your team here to try and bring in studio, but still bring information to the public. So the first thing to answer your question around how do we reduce our risk, how do we make it less likely that we'll have deaths, is by information. Good scientific information, easy to understand. And of course, during the program, we will have discussions via social media, phone, etc. The immune system is really important. So after you have the knowledge, all right, I heard about corona and I've heard about all of these bad things. What Marvin is saying really is they are mild, moderate, and severe symptoms. The usual aches and pains you might get on a Friday evening on the way home from work. You feel mash up, but you wake up the Saturday morning feeling good. That's mild. Aches, fever, little cough, sore throat. That can be ramped up and get a little bit more intense. The severe cases, that's the pneumonias, the acute shortness of breath. You can't catch your breath. You're having difficulty breathing. Those are the cases that we are most concerned about because those have the highest risk of complication, and main complication can be death. The people most susceptible to those complications are the persons who tend to have pre-existing conditions, diabetes or what we call sugar, heart problems, whether it is heart attack from before or your heart not keeping up, what doctors would call heart failure, patients who have had breathing disorders, including asthma, which is pretty common, but there are those who smoke, and we have a lot of persons listening who love to burn the weed or with the grabber, and over years this can cause significant problems to their lungs. And of course, there are those who have lupus and other collagen vascular disorders. So the point is that if you are high risk, you definitely need to pay attention to the symptoms. Once they get severe, reach out to the ministry, the 888 One Love number. In most cases, you can manage it at home and get remote or distance information from the healthcare provider. So your immune system, stick to your medication. If you have pressure or sugar, now is not the time to misbehave or run out of tablets or can't bother or make up any excuses, because the life that you save may be your own. Stick to the plan. If in doubt, get in touch with the doctor or nurse at your health center, or if you're in the private system, your private care provider.
What you've just described there seems typical. How close then to the normal cold? How do I differentiate between getting a COVID-19 as opposed to the regular flu that a man gets on the street? How do you differentiate that? And how do you decide then that...
Women get it too.
And big people and little people. So the short answer is that what you have asked is a very pragmatic and practical question. And I think it's the question that is on everybody's mind. So I have a little sniffle, I have a little cough, I may even have a little fever. How do I know whether or not I've had COVID or not? The truth be told is that we're still coming down to the tail end of the flu season. And so the vast majority of us, even without COVID being in the atmosphere, will have these symptoms and we will not have COVID. And so we really don't have much to fear. So in order for us to be able to decide whether or not we think you are at a high risk or probable case of COVID, the Ministry of Health, just like the WHO, World Health Organization, just like CDC, just like any other health organization, has created what they call a case definition as to these individuals. If they have 1, 2, 3, we would consider them to be potentially a case, and then we'll test them. So the short answer to your question is that you will not be able to differentiate between the common flu, the regular common cold, between that and COVID-19 by your symptoms. You will only be able to differentiate that if you have had a test that comes back positive for COVID-19. So that's the first thing. So having said that, then the next question is, who do we test? And so in order to decide on who we test, we have created what we call a definition. So it's really like, you're trying to say somebody has stolen something and you want to give the policeman a description as to who has stolen something. You go and you tell him he's a tall black man with a red shirt and so on. You give a definition. So similarly, we have the definition. So the definition currently involves some elements of travel. So the travel history is important. Initially, it was travel from China, but since we know it has spread over the world now, it's really travel from a country for whom there's evidence that there's local spread. And we've been expanded that now to say travel within, in the local travel, in areas that we have identified as so-called hotspots. So if you have the flu-like symptoms and you have a strong family travel history, or you are known to have been in contact with someone who has the problem, then we would consider it to be what we consider to be a case. and then we will institute the normal protocols to deal with those cases.
Another way of looking at it, Evan, is for now, we don't want everyone to sort of have to go and get a doctor degree or a nurse degree to understand it. The general thrust is that let's assume that anyone with a cough or cold type symptoms has it, and then work backwards from there. If you happen to be a severe case, it means that you might need hospitalization or you need more of an intervention so that you don't die, then the testing may come in. And I think Marvin will talk a little bit about different models that they've used internationally in terms of how we determine which way we go in terms of do we test everyone or just some people. But the main thing is, if you are in doubt, stay home. Take care of yourself. Move away. Don't try and spread it. Don't try and share it at the office or the radio station or at the bar. What you want to do, what you want to do is make sure that you are not just maintaining your own health or your own safety, but my safety as well. I think this is one of those times with any infectious disease, you are your brother's or your sister's keeper. You can't just make the decision for yourself alone. It's for the entire community. So if you have the sniffles up until the Prime Minister's announcement, don't go to church or go to your Kiwanis meeting or whatever other sort of gathering, because you may pass it on inadvertently. Even though you swear blind that is your baby give you from daycare, even though you swear blind that there was a man in the bus 2 weeks ago, it is an assumption that we just can't have right now. So better to err on the side of caution, where if you have respiratory symptoms, I think the message, Marvin, has been really clear that self-quarantine, moving away from, everyone. But this brings up another question, Evan, very quickly. Not all of us live in a big mansion like Natalie.
Very point of
I've heard about her house and the tennis court and all
pool,
of that.
and a swimming pool.
I know Irie pays particularly well. And I thought I would just say, Peter's on social media there typing away on probably the iPhone 20. The truth is that we have to limit contact with others. So if you share a bathroom, you wait your turn, you would be the last person, and then we clean up. If you eat in your dinner, you can eat in your room or wait until everyone else has eaten to minimize the contact with others, especially as it relates to saliva or droplets. And we've all been washing our hands and rubbing our hands and cleaning down surfaces regularly. Remember that the virus can live on a counter, a phone, a remote control. So sitting down on the couch with your girlfriend while you're in quarantine and two of you are sharing the remote or on each other's phones can cause you to transmit it inadvertently to someone else. So staying to yourself, very important, but also cleaning the surfaces regularly. Not everyone can afford those cans or tins that spray. I won't call any names, but what I will say is that soap and water or bleach water diluted, Marvin, you can remind us what?
1 in 10.
1 in 10. So in other words, 9 parts water to 1 part bleach. Very easy to remember, 1 in 10. You can wipe down the surfaces regularly with it. That gets rid of most germs that we would be concerned about. And you do that as often as possible.
I'm actually glad that you brought that point up, because a lot of people have been asking, stay home and do what? And so, and again, as you said, what about those people who might just have a 2-bedroom situation, 1 studio situation? How do I? So I'm really glad that you made the point that you might be in the 1 room, but stay in your corner until you can get into your area.
Tonight, the point of this program is what is coronavirus in real life.
Right.
What it means in real life, not just the theory. And I thought that, it's a good program for persons to call in and ask the common sense questions. What do I do if I don't have it? What if I can't afford it? What would you suggest? How do I know this? How do I know that? That's really the aim. So as you said, we just want to tackle, the practical questions that people are at home wondering about. What do you do? Thank God for things like Netflix, catch up on work. Students who should be studying. Now is a good time to make up for the grades you weren't getting before. But we have to find positive things to do with our time.
So it's once again. So it's also a good idea then to. I read somewhere where somebody suggested in dealing with this, you prepare for it as you were preparing for a bad cold. So you get your different medications that you'd normally take over time, your vitamin C's and so on. So that would be a good suggestion.
All right. So again, as Shane tells you, I'm a very long-winded guy. um, so this is just a viral infection, and with all viral infections, your main defense is your immune system. The truth be told, unless it is you are ill with some other disease, there's very little that you can do in terms of eating or drinking that's really going to change the course of the illness. But there's some practical stuff that we usually encourage people to do. So we encourage you to keep your hydration levels up, because oftentimes you have a fever and you become dehydrated without you knowing it. So drink lots of fluids. Topping up with your vitamins. There's no evidence necessarily that that's going to alter the course of your illness, but especially for individuals who didn't eat good in the first place, it's always helpful. And for the most part, most of these vitamins are what we call water soluble, so you won't do you harm if you take too much of it. Rest. I always say that I have two vitamins that I love dearly. Vitamin R, and because it's a G-rated store, I won't tell about the other vitamin, but vitamin R is really vitamin rest. It works wonders. A lot of times what we ask you to do when you come into hospital is that we put you to lie down and sleep. Vitamin R works.
Last week on our sports program, it was mentioned that in order to boost the immune system, a gentleman suggested kochi water.
All right.
Not readily available. So then we have to go there because this is where our listeners come from. They're listening and they want to know.
All right.
What are some of the things you do to prepare for
All
this
right. So
bad flu?
So from my side, vitamins by definition, from the science perspective, are really small chemicals that the body needs, and are really chemicals that the body needs in relatively small amounts to carry out very important functions in the body. That's why we call them vital. They're vital, but in really small amounts. For the average person who eats food from all food groups, meaning you have your vegetables, you have 2 or 3 servings of fruits for the day, you eat some of the starchy things, your yam and your banana and your rice, and if you're vegetarian, you eat your vegetables and so on. If you eat meat lover, you eat your meat. For the average person, from a standard diet, you will get all the vitamins that you need. And therefore, you really don't need to take extra vitamins, which are vitamin supplements. So the moral of the story is still eat good food, eat a broad range of food, and you should be okay. But let us say that you want to take some supplements, all right? Let us say you want to take some supplements, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that, to a sense. You can either take it in the form of a tablet, and there are many multivitamin preparations that exist on the market, so you can take it as that. Or if you want to go on more on the natural side, almost anything that's derived from fruits will be rich in vitamins. That's just the nature of the food stuff. And then your vegetables as well, which should also give you a bit of fruits with some fiber.
One of the things that I think happens a lot, Natalie, in rural Jamaica is that, I think everybody knows I'm from Kingston, but I almost said we from country. Spend a lot of time trying to eat like town people. We bypass some of the callaloo that's growing right outside the window, the ackee, the oat-eaty apple, the bananas. St. Mary is well known for bananas. But if you ask somebody from St. Mary if they have anything to eat, they look out at the banana tree and say, no, I don't have nothing. So these are all good sources of nourishment. And I think the point Marvin is making to whether you're rich or poor at this time, try and get some food in your system regularly, at least daily, and make sure it's a balanced diet. A little bit of everything. Too much of anything is not good. And also, the other point I'd make is that when in doubt, run. Just like a fight, if some Jamaica is the only country that when gunshot bust, people
get
go to
towards
find
it.
out.
What's going on?
Corona bus, don't go to Bull Bay to find out how it go or which part them live. What you need to do is get away, and that's why the social distancing, as you can see, Marvin is on the edge of the couch, and I'm on
At arm's length.
at least.
And some more.
You know, just staying away, keeping to yourself, and where you can maintain a clean environment.
We're in the mix of things, gentlemen. Do we look for home remedies then?
All right. So most of us are from the African diaspora. And what that means is that we still retain some of the oral traditions and some of the traditional practices of our forefathers. The truth be told is that for the most part, a lot of those practices, when we subject them to scientific inquiry, have been found to be useful. Some have been found to be frankly harmful. My own personal philosophy is where there's no harm, I do not discourage people from doing that because the mind is a very powerful tool. If you think something is going to work, it will work for you.
What I say to that, to Evan, to my patients is, just follow what I am telling you. You can add anything else to it. So, for example, if the advice, again, from the ministry, we're not here to reinvent or try and create alternate avenues of information or advice, but we have mainstream advice, though, staying away from others, keeping your environment clean, rest, diet. The truth is, if you want to add moringa to that, if you want to add aloe to that, no problem, as long as your doctor hasn't told you there's something wrong with it. But just depending on methods that we haven't proven to be helpful is a little bit dangerous. And we don't want persons in terms of helping themselves to really shoot themselves in the foot. So it's very important that we keep our eyes and ears open to what is the scientific evidence, what we know. We don't know everything, and I think that's one of the points that we should make. And I think Marvin alluded to it earlier. That is the novel. Your first question, Evan, that it's new. We're still learning a lot about it, but there are some common things because it named virus. Just like when somebody named Williams in certain parts of the country, you expect an Indian man, or you know that they're tall, or it's a small family. We know that this has certain similarities with other viruses, but we don't know all about it. So don't try to be the mad scientist in Brownstown or Belfield, Manchester. Follow what the scientists are saying. It's good advice, it's solid advice, but if you have something you can add to it that isn't going to harm you, you might help yourself.
When contacted, it takes 14 days, from what we're hearing, for you to actually know. Is that it? After 14 days, what damage is likely to have occurred in one's body?
Okay, all right. So for some clarity for your listeners, so we're going to say that you got exposed to the virus today, all right? For some unfortunate circumstances, you got the virus today. The day that you got the virus, we call it as your start of your exposure. So you have gotten the virus today. Between that time and until the time that you show the first symptom, whether the first symptom is a fever, whether it's a cough or a sore throat, that period of time is what's called your incubation period. So the time period between when you've gotten the exposure to when you first show some symptoms or signs is what we call your incubation period. From our experience and from the data that we have gotten from China and the rest of the world, it appears that that period for the most people is really between 1 to 14 days. Okay? For the vast majority of persons, we estimate it's roughly about 5 to 6 days. So the vast majority of persons between when it is that they got exposed to when they will first show some signs or symptoms is usually about 5 to 6 days, but the range can take you up to 14 days. So what happens to your body during that time? Nothing really, you know. What tends to happen is that the virus comes in and him say, wait, I have a food to eat, which is your throat and your nasal passage. So it multiplies. and it multiplies very, very, very fast, which is what makes it infectious. When it reaches a critical number, then you end up having the symptoms. And then after that, you then start passing this virus around to everybody. You're sharing the good stuff. Because the virus, just like we, wants to live.
In the cases of more complicated patients, in other words, how does this kill you? The virus is not, as Marvin has said several times, isn't any worse than flu. But it multiplies. It generates itself so fast. If you think of, if you're a farmer and you put something in the ground, add fertilizer and rainwater and see how fast it goes. That's what coronavirus is like. Now, or if you're a runner, it would be like being on steroids. It moves fast. So you don't have the time to lay and waste wondering because you might find yourself in a problem. Now remember, Evan, 70% of our patients in Jamaica have hypertension or diabetes or a combination.
A heart problem.
Usually from either one of those. So as a result, with both of them, those persons are at higher risk of developing a complication or even death. And what it does is it shuts down your organs. When your sugar is now out of whack, really high, causing your kidneys to fail, and that now starts the problems. So the key is prevent, avoid it as much as you can, and then if you have it, try to do all the things Marvin has pointed out so that it is the mildest form in your body. Once you've put it behind you, it is true that you can, or they're suspecting that you can be reinfected, but that might be the second round. So just like when you're getting food at a funeral, you get your plate. It might be a while before it comes back around, but it can.
Interesting.
All right, we're going to be taking a break, so we'll be back in a minute.
Sunset Pharmacy, where your health comes first. Visit us at Whitehall Road, Negril, across from the Negril Bus Park, or call 957-4192. The time by Sunset Pharmacy is...
Right now, 8 o'clock.
It's yummy time. Everyone is losing control. For you missing him, have a little bubbly in your tummy, and it's nothing funny. I forget a cinnamon roll for no yummy. Big people can't talk, school picnic can't study. I forget a cinnamon roll. So whether it's the bakery or supermarket, shut down the lane, cinnamon roll we a target. Everyone is losing control. For you missing cinnamon roll. Yummy, yummy cinnamon roll.
EBIS Document and Service Hub Limited is offering Heart Trust certified programs in early childhood, customer service, data processing, and geriatric care. We also offer services in graphic design, poster, banners, car sticker, t-shirt, cup and plate printing, and logo design. Call EBIS Document and Service Hub at 633-0967 or 633-0959 or email ebislimited@outlook.com. Visit us at Serby Complex, Storetown, St. Mary.
Reggae Radio, IRE FM.
Welcome back, listeners, to our Coronavirus Community Preparedness Forum. And of course, we're talking all things corona. We have with us in studio Professor Marvin Reed and Dr. Shane Alexis. And as he said earlier, this is about talking to the people in the various communities in the nooks and crannies of the country. Now, for our listeners, I'm sure there are going to be questions that you have. And you can call us or WhatsApp us a little bit later. The telephone numbers are 974 5051 974 5079 974 5043 or 618-0352. And WhatsApp number is 876 838-2405. So you can join in the discussion a little later on, but we're talking all things corona, and I'm sure there are questions you have that you can ask the doctors, and I'm sure they'll have the answers to share with you.
Thanks, Natalie. I want to go straight to Dr. Reed now. You're a researcher, family physician. In anticipation of the virus, how can one's fears be calmed? And, that's anxious anticipation. This panic button sets in at times. How does one provide a rear guard against things of this nature?
Okay, so the first thing first is that it is understandable if it is that you're feeling anxious at this time. It's a normal human emotion, nothing wrong with it. However, if your level of anxiety causes you to display irrational behavior, that's a different story. So it's usual. How we try to minimize that is really by trying to share with you information about what your likely risks are, which is what programs like these are trying to encourage. But the idea is really to get information that is accurate, factual, and to follow the advice that has been given by professionals. Now, having said that, we still recognize that you may still feel a little bit anxious, for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones, and so on. And so within that context, we usually advise that you may wish to engage yourself in some activity that we use to mitigate stress. And that will vary from individual to individual. But broadly speaking, it may involve social interactions in the sense of, talking to someone through the phone, using the various social media. It may involve some relaxation, walk around the house. It may, for those of us who are more religious, it may involve further communications with your God. Any one of those things that you normally would use to relax yourself and get reduced stress would be sets of activities that we would recommend.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
Just to add to what was said already, the truth is that we have a situation now where persons are being quarantined, that persons are asked to stay in their home or their community. And that would also lead to some amount of panic or anxiety. And that happens with anything new. Where we want to shift the conversation to is a more positive tone. Research, understanding, guarded expectations, preparation, solidarity, things like that. Because I have heard, and I think it's important that programs like this deal with it, if somebody has coronavirus in a village, let's choose Bamboo or Jerusalem Mountain or Bull Bay or wherever it is you are at this time, someone has coronavirus up the road. It isn't going to jump out of their house and walk down and come infect you and your family. It requires contact. And so discrimination is something we have to fight against. We saw it with things like HIV many years ago, where persons were shunned and isolated or even hurt. And that's something that we must not just warn against, but condemn. And ask persons to not take an uneducated or ignorant approach to this virus, but an informed approach, that we know how it's transmitted. If that's not the way you're in contact with the person, then don't discriminate against them or their families. We've heard of damage to property, damage to reputations, damage to individuals themselves. So the aim of a program like this, and I hope going forward nationally, is to talk of solidarity. Those who are being affected, whether they're being quarantined or in isolation, going through the treatment, or even afterwards. You You hear that a co-worker is back at work after a few weeks because of the coronavirus. Welcome them, support them, pass on information. The way to combat ignorance is through knowledge.
And one of the things that for those of us monitoring the social media or international news, you'd see some of the actors who have actually come out and say, I have tested positive. I think Idris Elba was one. We have Rita Wilson, Tom Hanks, the wife of the Canadian Prime Minister.
They're all close friends of mine. So,
there are people out there putting a face.
Yes, example, and that's always important.
On the line at this point in time, we have Dr. Melin Miller. She is a pediatrician, and that, of course, tells you the level of her specialty. As we say, good evening to Dr. Miller.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Hi, Dr. Miller. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Mm-hmm. How big a task do you have on hand, Dr. Miller, with the coronavirus swirling in the air?
Well, the thing is, I wanted to make people aware of both how it affects kids and how not to be afraid and how not to transmit their anxiety to the children.
Okay, go right ahead.
So, as you know, coronavirus is with us. However, the good news is that children seem to weather the storm much better than adults. There have been no deaths in children under the age of 9. And the children usually have just symptoms like an ordinary common cold, runny nose and cough, and usually not much else. The problem, however, is that they may transmit this infection to their families. So when a kid who in this time has a cold, it's better to have them away from other children and away from other people in the same way that you try to keep yourself if you have a respiratory illness, cough, cold, runny nose. Even if you don't have a fever and you don't think you have corona because you never traveled or were in touch with anybody, to keep yourself at home till you are better, or at least 2 weeks, because children can spread it even though themselves are not ill. Now, kids can absorb the negativity that's in the environment. So if at home if people at home are saying, well, Granny, go in bed, and I can't go work because I feel sick and I don't think I'm going to recover, they can start to become frightened. And it may take different forms. For example, they may start waking up with nightmares, they may start wetting the bed, or things like that. So it's very important, no matter how much you may feel fearful inside, to sit with them, explain to them what this is about. I'm sure the other speakers would have made you more informed about the virus, to let them know that this is a virus. It just comes from the same family that causes a common cold. And most people are going to recover. So there's no need for them to be frightened. Let them know that between you as a grown-up, as well as the government and the doctors, have got this covered and are helping to prevent it from spreading. And the other thing to do is to tell them and show them how to prevent it from spreading. For example, coughing into their elbow or using a tissue or toilet paper to cover their faces when they cough and then throw it away. I know sometimes we may have not access to running water, but if you do have running water and soap, then soap and water is great for washing your hands. And there are many, many advertisements showing you how to wash your hands properly. Or if you don't have water, you can use rubbing alcohol. And if you don't have rubbing alcohol, you can use white rum to just wipe your hands. And you can do this for the kids as well. Every time they touch things, they wipe their hands. And the important thing is to remind them, even though it's very hard for adults, much less children, don't put your hand in your mouth or your face because you will spread the germ. But the important thing is to reassure them that you, as the adults, are working with the people in the Ministry of Health to keep them safe, and that children do very well with it. It's just like a cold. The grown-ups have to be careful, and you are working on that.
Dr. Miller, how would you suggest, there are some ideas to approach this with the children? Is it a formal sit down or we make it a casual conversation? What's the best approach you think?
I think that you would It all depends on your own child. The older children, you can have a sit down with them. A lot of them do know quite a bit. If they watch TV, they could probably give you a lecture. But the thing is to sit down with them at a personal level, saying, you know what? You know, there's the germ, the same germ that causes your cough and cold. You know what this corona thing is about? And if they give you a story and you realize that some of the information is not correct, then you just kind of correct them gently. I think that they know nothing about it. You try to, there is something online, I don't remember the site, but I think if you Google telling children about coronavirus, there's a little cartoon that has corona, like there is a little man called Corona who wants to visit your home. But we can keep him out by, and we do this thing with the coughing into the hand, into the elbow, and tissue on the face, and not touching the face, and we can help to keep him away. And if we all work together, corona won't come to your home, or something like that. You know, or it depends on the age of the child. The older children, you can actually talk with them like a big person, but don't underestimate their ability to understand, because what you don't explain to them, they make up. And usually they make it up like somehow they cause it. They made you sick because they did something, and it's better to explain to them how it's contracted and to come to you if they have any symptoms, because a lot of times kids may have a symptom if they're at work, you don't realize they're coughing the day, and they don't tell you anything until it's far, you know, it's a bit more advanced. To encourage them to let you know if they have any symptom at all, and so that you can act on it. But some kids you could bring it up while you're washing the dishes. Some children would prefer a more formal setting. You have to know the type of child you have.
All right, with children home, and there are going to be some households with more than one child. How do you keep them away from each other? Because they're now at home with, you know, outside of the schoolwork that they may do for a few hours. How do you keep them apart?
I don't think you can keep them apart. You have to keep them away from other people outside of the home. Mm-hmm. The thing would be to try and keep them within the home and not, you know, be having them going to visit next door neighbor or go down the road and play in a park where other children might be. The whole purpose of this isolation was to keep children from coming in clusters where they can spread this virus, you know, just with their little runny nose. So I think within a household, unless a parent is staying home to keep putting the mask on the face of the coughing child, trying to separate one child from the other unless you lock them up is going to be pretty much impossible. And severe isolation, like putting the individual in a single room where they cannot come out, would be more or less restricted to those who are confirmed coronavirus infected patients, as opposed to those who are suspected or simply have a cold. Mm-hmm. But the most important thing is that they're outside the home to spread the symptoms, which may or may not turn out to be coronavirus related.
Mm-hmm. How different are the symptoms displayed by children as opposed to adults?
Well, the typical diagnostic features for corona are fever, cough, and shortness of breath. And you may get diarrhea and vomiting. In children, they may just have the runny nose and a little cough. They may not have a fever. And some kids have presented with just diarrhea and vomiting. So the symptoms are subtle. When they start to get more respiratory problems, and they may get the diarrhea and the vomiting, and they may get the muscle pain, it makes it very clear, but it's not usual that children get the full house presentation, and it may just be the runny nose. And what may clue you into the diagnosis is an ill contact, a contact with somebody who has been identified as being infected. Some relative came from one of the countries recently and visited within the last couple of weeks, or they came back. So these kind of non-specific symptoms and a suggestive history would point you more in that direction. But if you were to depend just on the clinical features, it would be just runny nose, cough, and cold, and it would be difficult to make the confidently diagnose it.
Dr. Miller, we're going to ask you, please, to hold on for us. We're going to take a short break and come right back to you. Please hold on.
Delta Supply's Hilti Red Day is back March 18 and 19. Get big discounts for 2 days on Hilti construction tools and accessories for drilling, demolition, screw fastening, cutting, grinding, and more. Charge upon the Hilti experience and see the tools in action. Call or WhatsApp us at 302-611124 or follow us at Delta Supply Co. Ltd on Facebook or Instagram for more information. Conditions apply. Hilti, outperform, outlast. Hilti Red Day is back March 18 and 19.
Hey! Shop in comfort and style at DIB Home Center. Come enjoy our new designed store for the best prices on power tools such as Stanley, DeWalt, and Milwaukee. Bathroom fixtures like Moen and Delta. American Standard toilets, tiles, doors, and windows. Rubbermaid storage containers and trash cans. Lifetime folding tables and chairs. Samsung and LG TVs. So don't miss out. Visit DIB Home Center, 11 West Palm Avenue, Port Antonio. Call us today, 607-2472. DIB Home Center. We do it best.
Hello, my baby.
Hello, my sugar.
How are you?
I'm magical. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Do you miss me?
Do you miss me?
We could talk like this all day.
Can't take on, honestly. Let me take time out to say hello to my ladies, my beautiful babies.
It's truth that is shattering.
Because I had a relationship in the past, and me tell the girl it's over. And that girl passed my hand and see woman my hand and she come and broke out in the glass window. See a stone she have in there.
It's fun and laughter.
Lady! Second ragamuffin, this a easy no man. This a Mr. Fraser upon the microphone stand.
It's your no judgment zone. You can safely call home.
Men love the trouble and can't take it back. So when you come back to them, then just do it in a abuse.
Him
and her.
Brought to you by Trang Back Tonic Wine. Strengthen your back to make the attack.
Every Tuesday, 9 to 10 p.m.
on IRF.
Everybody feel irate when they listen to irate. Everybody love irate.
Welcome back to our Coronavirus Community Preparedness Forum. We are here in discussion with Professor Marvin Reed and Dr. Shane Alexis. Also there too is Dr. Malin Miller. She's a pediatrician and she has been providing us, Natalie, with very vital information in relation to children.
Right. I have one other question for you, Dr. Miller. So one of the things I've been hearing people say is that the sun is good in terms of this infection, that it will help. So against that background, though, is it a good idea to have the children in the yard playing? They might not go next door, but suppose they want to go out and skip outside or play sightings or something. Should they be allowed out? And is the sun a good thing for them
No,
and even adults?
The sun is not going to prevent you from getting the virus, nor is it going to make you cured of the virus. In the same way that putting hot water down your nostrils or breathing steamed air or sitting in a sauna, this is not going to kill the virus, and this is not going to prevent you from getting an infection. It may feel good to be outside in the fresh air and in the warm sun, and it may kind of boost your immunity and vitamin D levels, but it is not going to specifically prevent you from getting the virus or speed your recovery. And if you are ill and you don't spend a lot of time in the sun, having not had much of an appetite or been drinking properly, you can get dehydrated and damage your kidneys. So I would not recommend sun exposure as a potential treatment or prevention for the disease.
Great, Dr. Miller. It's been fantastic having you on the line. Thanks very much for your contribution to our forum this evening. And keep on keeping on. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, man. All the best to you.
Bye.
Yes.
If I could just chime in on the question of children, and sort of dovetail that into the healthcare workers who are on the front line, or other frontline workers. Many of us have children. I certainly, I have two, one called Sugar Cube and the other is Sugar Ball. And one is 1 year and the other is just 6 weeks old. And I also am anxious about whether I'm going to carry something home to my own family. And I think all of us who have a loved one at home waiting for us wonder, we are several times more at risk as doctors, nurses, pharmacists, ancillary staff, ambulance drivers, garbage men, the waste can still transmit, whether through urine or feces, the virus to someone, and the persons who are caregivers. And so I think the whole question of how we deal with our children, how we prevent it from getting to our homes, is really important. And just to spare a thought for those who have to be on the front line, persons like Marvin and myself have to work through this. We can't just simply say we're going to pack up as doctors and go home and work remotely, because unless we're going to have patients at our homes, it won't work. So those healthcare workers, want to wish them the best, encourage them. It's genuine national service to work at this time for all the persons involved, but also remember to protect yourself and your children. Follow, even as healthcare workers, all the protocols, all the rules, all the guidelines that we have learned, whether through our studies or from the ministry. Now is not the time to relax or be casual with the things we need to do to protect our families and our homes.
All right, one of the questions we've been getting, and we have Johnny.
Irie FM, I lick that.
Shut the pot! Mind you make the film escape.
Irie FM, I lick
Remember,
that.
all Supreme Benches live draws are being supervised by the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission and observed by the independent auditing firm PwC. Let's now select tonight's winning numbers. We begin tonight's games with Lucky 5, and for $800,000, here are your winning Lucky 5 numbers. And the first Lucky 5 number for tonight is number 1. The second Lucky 5 number is 23. Up next, here comes number 10. The fourth Lucky 5 number is 12. And the fifth and final Lucky 5 number for tonight is number 2. So let's put some money in your top draw. Tonight's jackpot is $800,000. Here are the winning top draw numbers, and good luck. And the first top draw number is 15. The second number is lucky number 7. Up next, here it comes, it's number 1. The fourth top draw number is 20. And the final number for $800,000 is number 6. And now for our dollars game. I hope you have your tickets out. Let's go. And the first dollars number for tonight is 20. The second dollars number is 28. And here comes number 8. And 8 is followed by 3. Coming down is number 25. Followed by 11. Now I do hope you're getting them right so far. The next dollars number is 24. And next in line is 29. And here comes 26. Followed by number 1. Number 13 follows. And the final dollars number for tonight is 30. So now for some easy winnings with our Pick 2 games. So let's go. Here they come. The first winning Pick 2 number is 35, and the second Pick 2 number is 25. Again, the winning Pick 2 numbers are 35 and 25. Up next, you can play it 3 ways. It's our Pick 3 game. The first winning Pick 3 number, here it comes, it's number 6. The second Pick 3 number is number 5, and the third and final Pick 3 number for tonight is 8. So again, the winning Pick 3 numbers are 6, 5, and 8. It's now time to turn up your winnings. So get ready for Pick 4. The first Pick 4 number is 6. The second Pick 4 number is also 6. Here comes the third number. What will it be? It's 6 again. And the fourth and final Pick 4 number for tonight is number 4. Again, the winning Pick 4 numbers are 6, 6, 6, and 4. Now the 5 p.m. winning cash bar number was 21. Lucky Mark Bad Girl and the Mega Ball was selected. Let's get ready to play our cashback game for Monday, March 16, 2020. A quick reminder, our previous winning cashback number was 21. You live to play it, but can you win it? Remember, every number has special meanings. Get ready to be a big cashpot winner. Let's see what tonight's winning cashpot number will be. It's number 32. Congratulations to all cashpot winners again. The winning number is 32. Did you win it? Thank you for playing tonight's cashpot game. Play cashpot 6 times per day for more chances to win big. And now let's try to mega your cashpot money. Good luck. Here it comes. What will it be? And the white ball has been selected. So again, the winning cashpot number is 32. The lucky mark is gold and the white ball has been selected. So now let's take a look at tonight's winning numbers. And congratulations to everyone who won. Stay safe, Jamaica. And thank you so much for playing all of today's games. Please come back tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. for more games that I love to play. I'm Pizza Gay. Have a supreme night.
Hope you were a big winner. Play your favorite Supreme Ventures games every day and tune in for our live draw 6 times a day at 8:30 a.m., 10:30 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., and 8:25 p.m. on this station. Supreme Ventures, making winners every day.
Reggae Radio. Irie
For the
FM.
best in food and ambiance, visit Anchor's Island Seafood Bar and Grill, 295 Lilliput, St. James. Telephone 876-680-1616. Anchor's Island Seafood for the true taste of the ocean.
The time is...
Right now it's 8:35. Welcome back to our Coronavirus Community Preparedness Forum. Of course, we're here with Dr. Shane Alexis. We also have Professor Marvin Reed. They're both live in our studios with us. And of course, I'm Evan Hewitt, and with me is our news editor, Natalie Campbell.
Good evening again, listeners. And just to remind you that in a little bit from this, we're going to be taking some calls, or if you want to WhatsApp in your questions. The numbers are 974-5051, 974-5079, 974-5043, 618-0352. Or if you're going to use WhatsApp, it's 876-838-2405. Now, we're talking about our listeners. We have people also on the social media platforms. One of the questions that has come in is, who should wear a face mask and how does it provide protection? And that's Johnny in Port Maria, St. Mary. So who should wear a face mask, Prof. Doc, and does it really provide protection? Because we do see people around the town wearing the mask and the gloves.
All right, hail up to my St. Mary brethren, because I'm from Jacksonville. So mommy said anyway. But the truth be told, the individuals who really should be wearing face masks are really our health professionals, because their risk of contracting the illness is much higher, and they have to deal with people who may be sick and may have COVID. Individuals who themselves may have respiratory symptoms. So you may have a little bit of sneezing, common cold and stuff. And in wearing the mask, what you're doing is you're protecting others. So those groups of individuals, I think wearing a mask makes sense. For the average person who is not sick, who is just wearing a mask for fashion, it really ends up causing more harm than good. And so the general recommendation is that it's really not necessary.
And of course, there's the issue of how they treat the mask too, because there might be some people tempted to be wearing it 2, 3, 4 days, and how you take it off, how you put it on, the gloves.
So that's the problem.
Reuse.
So wearing a mask is a technical issue. There are technicalities about putting it on, fitting it, how long you're keeping on it for, and so usually what we find is that those who are wearing it for fashion end up causing more harm to themselves rather than protecting themselves. Because they usually don't follow the rules that are associated with the proper use of the mask.
Mm-hmm. We must inform our listeners too, Natalie, that we're going to be touching base with Bishop Richard Gordon. He's from the New Covenant Ministries International. The church, of course, would have a very integral part to play in the whole scheme of things. And so we would want to invite the bishop to speak with us in a little while. Dr. Alexis, we want to have you back to clarify some things for us. Somebody was asking where did the coronavirus come from? I think that was made redundant by your Dr. Fraser already. So that is out of contention at this point in time.
While you're considering looking through social media at just what's happening, Bishop Gordon, one of the things that Professor Reed and myself found some time ago is that in trying to promote change in our healthcare sector, if we only preach to doctors, we're not likely to change the way the population sees things or behaves, responds to us. And so partnering for this broadcast, I was able to partner with Bishop Gordon and the New Covenant.
And one of the technicalities, you also have to adjust your language base too, because if you deal with the whole medical thing on a particular platform, you either speak over the heads of some of our listeners as well.
But Evan, when sports people are talking about line and length and wicket and offside and onside, you don't break it down for people like me. But it's true. We have to find a way to get to everyone in the way that they can understand and accept it. I've found in my travels that we really don't have stupid people in Jamaica. We just have people who have been exposed and others who have been more exposed. And how you live is how you learn. And some persons live in a very simple and humble form. And we have to, as professionals, make sure that we use the right language, not just the words, but our body language, that we're warm, we're inviting, that we relate to them. And so the partnership with Bishop, funny enough, most people wouldn't have expected a partnership between a doctor or a politician and the church, but it's how we reach to people. And at a time like this, it's very important, and we found it effective when we dealt with Ebola, chikungunya, preparations for the country, that we have to reach across, cross-pollinate, find other mixes and matches where people don't think it's coming from. It comes from a dancehall artist. It comes from a sportsman. Tonight, you're a sportsman anchoring something on health, and you have a news editor anchoring something on health. So these are great combinations that we found can be very effective, and we want people to just understand that we're coming from a different angle. Open your minds and your hearts to the information so that you can help to preserve and protect life.
And educate other persons in that regard
Absolutely.
as well. That's why we want to ask Doc about the isolation process and the quarantine process.
All right, so those are actually very good questions.
Just before you go, Doc, just before you respond to that question, we're going to take a short break and come right back to that very same question, isolation and quarantine.
Not a problem.
Havco Curamine Plus will remove inflammation from the body. With no inflammation, conditions such as type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol cannot stay in the body. Tanquest is a combination of herbs and fruits to remove toxins and pathogens from the body. Tanquest is antifungal, antiviral, and antibacterial. Tanquest will destroy free radicals and make you stronger for longer. Get your Curamine Plus and Tanquest from Havco Herbs and Extracts. Call them today at 540-8871. That's 540-8871.
If you are Jamaican and your child was born outside of Jamaica, apply for unconditional landing status for your child. Visit PICA's website at www.pica.gov.jm or call 876-754-7422 for more information. PICA, securing our borders, safeguarding our sovereignty.
Hey! Shop in comfort and style at DIB Home Center. Come enjoy our new designed store for the best prices on power tools such as Stanley, DeWalt, and Milwaukee. Bathroom fixtures like Moen and Delta. American Standard toilets, tiles, doors, and windows. Rubbermaid storage containers and trash cans. Lifetime folding tables and chairs. Samsung and LG TVs. So don't miss out. Visit DIB Home Center, 11 West Palm Avenue, Port Antonio. Call us today, 607-2472. DIB Home Center. We do it best.
Hello, my baby.
Hello, my sugar.
How are you?
I'm magical,
miss me?
Do you miss me?
We could talk like this all day.
Can't take on, honestly. Let me take time out to say hello to my ladies, my beautiful babies.
It's truth that is shattering.
Because I had a relationship in the past, I mean, tell the girl it's over. And that girl passed my hand and see woman my hand and she come and broke out in the glass window. See a stone she have in there.
It's fun and laughter.
Ladies! Second ragamuffin, this a easy no man. This a Mr. Fraser upon the microphone stand.
It's your no judgment zone. You can safely call home.
Men love the trouble and can't take it back. So when you come back to them just do it in a abuse.
Him
And her.
Brought to you by Trang Back Tonic Wine. Strengthen your back to make the attack.
Every Tuesday, 9 to 10 p.m.
on IRF.
Get moving. Time to move, so make we get ready. Eating better, make we get healthy. Drink enough water, exercise daily. 30 minutes a day, children 60. In all your activities, don't risk the non-communicable disease. Hypertension, stroke, and diabetes. Go to your doctor and get screened. Treat your body right, you will never regret. With your friends and your family then. This movement of your health and strength. For memories, for life. A message from Jamaica Moves.
Reggae Radio, IRE FM.
Welcome back. Welcome back to our Coronavirus Community Preparedness Forum. We are here. I'm Evan Hewitt, and with me is Natalie Campbell, and we are both doing it together again.
Yeah. Not just elections and disaster time, but coronavirus time.
Pretty much so. Understand we have Bishop Richardo Gordon from the New Covenant Ministries International online. Bishop, good evening, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening. I trust that you're hearing me clearly.
Loud and clear.
Yes, we are. Loud and clear you are. We are addressing a particular question to Dr. Reed. So just hold on. We're coming straight to you. Dr. Reed, we were talking about quarantine and isolation.
Right. So in the media, you'll hear three terms actually being bandied about fairly commonly these days. One is isolation, one is quarantine, the other one is social distancing. So let's see if we can put some understanding to all of these terms. So when we say we quarantine an individual, what it's saying is essentially that this person is not sick, but has a potential to be sick. So based on the history and the circumstances, this person, there's a likelihood that they may become sick, and we just want to keep a closer eye on them to find out if they do become sick. So quarantine are really healthy people. They're not showing any symptoms, not showing any signs of any illnesses, but because of their antecedents, we want to keep a closer eye on them. So that's really what a quarantine is. When you become isolated now, it really is because you're starting to show signs. So you're starting to become sick. There's something is going on. And so in order to protect you and to protect other individuals, we put you aside and we do the test to find out if something is actually going on. So that's isolation. So isolation really refers to sick individuals whom we're keeping an eye on. Then the other fancy term that we hear a lot in the media is social distancing. It really what we're trying to say here is that this now relates more to a group or a crowd. And because the virus is transmitted from person to person, close contact, I hug you, I kiss you, or hold your hands, those sort of a close what we call associations. What we're trying to do is let's split that up a little bit. Let's keep our distance. And so technically speaking, we're saying that you should be at least a meter apart, at least 3 feet apart, in general, as much as you can. So you try and limit the number of persons that are in a confined space.
All right, we're going to
just to add quickly, Natalie, to that some people listening might not know, well, how do you measure the distance? Yes. Some people don't walk around with rulers and tape measures. So for an adult, roughly speaking, if your average height, arm span would be about that distance. So if you just put your arms out like you're going to fly, if you're listening to us, that kind of distance is about the distance that you're looking for. So when the Prime Minister announced, for example, changes with public transportation, whether it's just persons being seated in a bus or carrying one less person than you're licensed to carry. It's trying to achieve that kind of distance. And, I don't think we're going to go into tonight how successful that can be, but simply speaking that if you're listening and you want to know how far you should be from the person you're buying in a shop, or you are doing somebody's nails or hair or whatever it is you're doing, about the span of your arms is about the distance or more if you can.
All right, so we have Bishop Gordon online, as we said earlier. And Bishop, you would have heard the announcements from the Prime Minister this evening about gatherings, and he spoke specifically to groups of 20. No more than 20 should be in groups, so we know church will be impacted by that. He did mention funerals, weddings as well, Evan.
Banquets, or anything that attracts large gatherings. Question is church still going on, Bishop?
Well, I had church on Sunday, and I believe that, first of all, my conviction on the matter is I see some realities concerning the virus, and which, first, I don't believe that it is a virus that is some judgment from God or some plague that He has sent our way. I believe that in my estimation, in my own interpretation, that this is something that was created in a pits of hell and had some human engineering behind it, and that it has an agenda to create fear. And as a man of faith, I believe that if I would stand on God's word and trust in Psalm 91, concerning the description of what I believe would be a prophetic psalm that speaks about days like these. So I am not suggesting rebellion against authority or trying to be out of line or anything like that. But in the greatest thing that I see manifesting out of all of the scenario taking place is it is really a reflection of terror and fear that if we exercise the due wisdom, prudence, the sanitations, the different things that we know that we ought to do and we know that we should do, I am very much in for all of that. But as it comes to impacting a gathering of believers who believe that there is also power in the word of faith that God has given to us and prayer that God has given to us. Of course, as things begin to escalate, we are looking at other options that will become necessary if the virus continues to spread. But we continue to pray and trust and believe God that this weapon, this evil device will die, that there will be a divine intervention, on this matter. So that is what my congregation and myself who have been praying about, we have been believing God for, and we have been praying for the relevant authorities that God will give wisdom in finding a proper cure, and that the church as a voice also as a place of faith. So that's just my personal conviction right there that I wish to share. And for people that may have some alarms, it is said by Job that the thing I fear the most has come upon me. And that's a law of attraction. What we fear is what we're going to attract. I am not saying that we should be careless, but just giving a word of encouragement and hope to our listeners that they don't fall into panic and they don't get into a place where they believe that this is the end of it all, that this is a mass judgment and we're all going to die. But that for Jamaicans who are people of prayer, who are people of faith, that we continue also to trust God for His divine intervention where this matter is concerned.
All right, so just want to clarify for listeners that the new policy comes into effect Wednesday, and it's for seven days. What was the tone or the mood? Did you find that you had to calm down a lot of people over this past weekend?
To be honest and to be sincere, things over on my side seem to have continued very much in the same trend. But of course, there were persons who were absent from church that would have had that kind of fear and concern, and there is no particular judgment against that, but I didn't really have a challenge per se in terms of how I related to the people that is under my particular care as it pertains to their fear of what is happening. I believe that from the New Year service that certain utterances had gone forth that would have prepared people that these were some of the things that the Bible itself speaks about in Luke 21:25, that men's heart fear because of the things that is coming up on the earth. And we're seeing these things happening more frequently and more frequently. So it is a position of how we stand in a time as this, and the faith that we have and the assurance that we have on which we would stand. We're praying for the doctors, we're praying for the government, we're praying that a solution be had to this problem, but we're also giving our people the reassurance that we should not fall into fear and fall into a sense of, you see, in the Bible, there was a plague going through Egypt, but there's a place in Egypt called Goshen that nothing affected that area, but that was a divine judgment from God. In this case, we believe that we must pray against this thing and speak against this thing and pray for a solution quickly, because it is too disruptive.
All right. How easy will it be for the church, and maybe you can speak specifically to your situation, to put in place alternative methods for people to reach out to each other?
It's going to be very difficult, because it's not everybody have online access. The suggestion that is made by even different ministers and different churches is to do church online, right? But the Bible does say in Hebrews 10 verse 25, forsake not the assembling together of yourself, but the manner of some is, even as much as you see the day approaching. And so there are some people that don't have online, they are not on Facebook, they can't access so and so. So I guess they will have to just do church on their own, if it would ever come to that kind of a massive escalation. But I am believing that it will not get to there. I am trusting God that something will happen. But the 7 days restriction that has been placed, we're looking now at how to do cell group meetings in terms of smaller groups of people that can just be in a worshipful environment, and how we can use social media to carry the message and to carry the activities that will take place, as against having a very large gathering that we would have on a Sunday morning. So these are things that we're already beginning to look at the alternatives.
Mm-hmm. Great, Bishop. I know the practicality of what you're doing, very applicable in this case, and we certainly want to commend you for the work you're doing there at the New Covenant Ministry International. Where is your church, sir?
Okay, the church is located, we have 3 branches on the island, and the main branch is located in Another Bay, St. Mary, where Dr. Shane Alexis is the caretaker, and Dr. Alexis and myself had a discussion over 2 weeks ago as to making a community preparedness for this event that we saw forthcoming. And we were in partnership on that project. But unfortunately, I had to fly into the BVI on some ambassadorial assignment there with the 1 year anniversary of the government. So I could not be present for the meeting that would have been last week, Monday. So hence, we had scheduled a meeting for this Monday, but because the thing broke out the way that it broke out, we decided against social gathering that will draw mass, and so hence we believe that the studio was an effective way of carrying the message out and getting the word out there. So we have one branch in Another Bay, another branch over in Montego Bay, and one in Kingston.
Great that you're involved in tonight's program. Thanks for your contribution, sir, and all the best to you and the rest of your congregation.
God bless and all the best.
Yes, sir. Have a great evening.
Thanks so much.
You too.
All right, so you're listening to our coronavirus community preparedness forum, and we have with us Dr. Shane Alexis and Professor Marvin Reed. Now, one of our callers, again from St. Mary, going back to an issue we raised earlier about how do you quarantine someone who shares the same room with multiple family members. And again, I think we should go back to it because that is the reality of many families in Jamaica. Small living situation. And so just remind them, sir, quickly, what is the best you can do in those circumstances?
All right. So there are different levels of quarantine, if I may add. So if, for example, the ministry perceives that you are at a real risk because of your travel plans or because of where you've been and so on, they would actually quarantine you in their own facility because they would have made an assessment of your home and realized that it may not be ideal. But let us say that you take it upon yourself to so-called self-quarantine because you're not sure. The short answer really is two things. Is to try to keep some distance between yourself and the rest of the family members, so however practical it is. So whether it means staying in one part of the room versus another part, you'll have to be relatively creative as to see how it is that you do that. We usually say, for example, identify your utensils and you alone keep your utensils. You wash it, you keep it all by itself. If there's just one washroom or bathroom, you try and use it last and then clean it afterwards. So it's activities such as those that you try and do as much as you can to minimize contact.
So it's really important before Dr. Alexis joins in to not just say, well, we can't bother because it's just one room. Do the best you can and limit
contact as best as you can.
Well. Go ahead, Dr. Alexis.
You know, we're all in it together. You know, if you have a common situation, might be a woman with two adult sons and a grandchild in a small home, listening now. Everyone has to appreciate quarantine. So even if I am not sick, but I live with you, Natalie, I can't just be disrespectful of the process. I can't just ignore the fact that you are trying not to spread this to me and others in the community and just say, well, me not have no problem, so me just gotta go through. Or I am going on the road now, or I'm bringing over my friends because of my house too. It's important that the family understands that at the core of our response as a country, we need families to stick together in solidarity to support one another. And then across families from a safe distance, send over breadfruit next door. See if you can, if you're going to the shop and you're not in quarantine. Hi, Miss Madge, you need anything? Get a roll of toilet paper. Get a bucket of water. Make sure the truck that is coming with the water, we hope, that you too can get. Lend a hand to a neighbor, but do it safely. Because if they are not successful, it spreads to others. And you may become affected, and you might be the one that loses. Remember that pussy and dog don't have the same luck. So you can look across the fence and your friend, boy, don't look too bad. But when the same thing lick you, no, it could cause severe complications because you're the diabetic, or you're the person who went through cancer therapy, or you're the one with a 90-year-old grandmother. So it's very important that we remember as a country that solidarity is a critical word. It's a phrase that I hope others would start to use on social media, whether there's a hashtag or sharing the word to say, we are in it together. Not just the doctors and the nurses or those who travel and them sick. That is their problem. The minister has said that more than 1 million of us, most of us are expected to get it at some point. And as Marvin said, we're currently looking at a death rate of 2%, 2 to 3%. That means that up to 20,000 people in a worst case scenario could die. We hope that we're nowhere close to that, but we don't know who or when it will affect. So very important in the whole quarantining that you don't just say that is for them problem. It's all our problem.
And of course, we would have seen some people who would have been hoarding stuff, both locally and internationally. And so it makes no sense you have all the hand sanitizers because then you leave me to come grab you.
That is correct.
I'm just wondering, Natalie, if it's too early to ask Dr. Reed, what is the future of the coronavirus?
All right, so the future of the coronavirus is just like everything else, just like all the other virus epidemics that we have had and pandemics that we have had. I anticipate that at some point in time, sufficient number of persons within the world may become exposed to it, and that there may become some herd immunity. But I think, in short, what will happen is that we will learn to live with it because it's not going anywhere. So just like how we have learned to live with influenza, which is flu, just like how we have learned to live with chikungunya, we'll learn to live with all of these viruses at some point in time. So that's what I anticipate will happen.
Will it continue to spread?
I think technology will limit its spread. Technology and advances in medicines, just like its cousin, which is SARS and all of those viruses, we will be able to contain it and limit its spread. I suspect, though, that because it's ravaging so many countries, there are a large proportion of us will develop some form of immunity against it, which will help protect us against its severity over time.
That is very good news, Natalie.
Okay, and we're going to take another break.
Is your fashion on fleek? Check TK Rafine. Rock top brands, trendy styles, best quality. Call 510-1781 or 393-2019.
I'm a classic man.
The time on IRI FM is
9 p.m.
Reggae Radio, IRI FM.
I'm sure you heard that there's a coronavirus forum. There's a coronavirus conference in the United States, and that was cancelled because of the coronavirus. So interesting times are ahead. We're still here at Reggae Radio RFM. We're discussing the coronavirus at the community level, the preparedness of the personnel living in these situations. We have Professor Marvin Reed, he's with us. Dr. Shane Alexis is also with us. And of course, I'm Evan, and with me is Natalie.
Yes, we are here spreading the word, trying to get people prepared and informed as we, as a country, deal with the virus that is affecting us. And of course, from the news perspective, so many measures were announced today. Some of them will take effect as of Wednesday coming. And we have, among the issues that the Prime Minister had mentioned, was that the unessential members of the workforce that should really be going out, talking about even traveling in taxis, that the taxi operators,
as well.
right, the buses shouldn't bring people standing, and the cars
take
one less person. And so a lot of things, listeners, we are going to be seeing coming into place.
And a lot of
this
predication
week.
on the basis of social distancing, as has been explained on this program.
Right, and of course, earlier we spoke with the bishop, and one of the things that will affect the church is definitely, well, not just church, but the bars will be closed too. So a lot of the community bars are going to be impacted by that.
And the corner shops are going to remain open, but
right,
of course,
supermarkets, but
they're also limited in terms of the amount
20
of patrons that they can accommodate.
20. So life in rural Jamaica will...
Interesting times are ahead.
Yes.
Already we have somebody on the line, so we're going to go straight to the telephone line. Hello, caller. Hello?
Yes,
And so that means it's the angel that is online.
Yes, the lady of dancehall herself.
You would have heard the angel about the coronavirus now threatening all of Jamaica. What is your take on it?
Oh boy, I mean the reality is what it is. So I'm just encouraging everybody to just use the, sanitize and protect yourselves and your family, and just say the advice of sometimes you have to make your own little home remedy and straighten up your immune system and just be prepared because it's what it is. And you have to just hope and pray for the best as well.
Of course.
I'm presently home with my son because he's off from school 14 days, so he's actually Tinder is in place now for him to learn online. Google Classroom is now in place for him to learn online, and I'm here learning as well because I'm I'm just being safe and just if I don't have anything to do on the road, I'm not on the road, and I just keep myself sanitized. As I know, if I go on the road and I come back, I just do the necessary things that needs to be done. And even if I'm on the road, I always have my sanitizer with me, right through.
Okay, the entertainment industry is obviously one of the places that has been impacted greatly by this coronavirus. Your take on that?
Yes, I've been impacted myself because my show in Europe has been subsequently cancelled. It would have been my very first time in Europe, so it's 14 shows was cancelled for me. And also in England, I had a show in England as well, and that was also cancelled because of the outbreak of the virus. I mean, it will come again and bigger and better. In my mind, I'm saying bigger and better things next time, and it's so they're rescheduling the dates and everything for it to happen. So we're just hoping and praying for the best. But I know that everything will work out in time and everything will be back to normal. I have strong faith in God. I just know that, the Bible is being fulfilled. On the other hand, yes, we have to be aware of that. So what is to be must be, but we have to just take all the necessary precautions because shows being cancelled is not my life and money is not all. So I look at it good and bad, and I say, you know what? When it come back again, it's going to be bigger and better for the angels. So I just look at it positively at the same time while protecting myself.
Mm-hmm. So it seems a momentary setback for the time being. I want to ask you, though, how this online schooling going? This gentleman called from Shino in Spring Hill, Portland, was saying that online schooling just won't work for students, especially students doing CXC. Your child is at the CXC level now?
No, my son is in 7th grade.
Okay.
So I cannot speak to CXC. Fortunately, we are up and running. Today was his first online class, and everything went successful. And everything went smooth for us, luckily. So, I'm just saying, you know what? We have to just, in light of everything that's happening, everything's not going to be perfect all around, but we have to just try and protect ourselves the best way we can and educate ourselves the best way we can. Everything now going to be as normal as before, but everything will come back to normality. So nobody panic and worry too much because there's no worries and stress kills. You understand? And that will give you corona. Stress and worries, that will bring it.
No, it will give you a coronary.
We don't want no more botheration and stress more than what we are going through. So just stay warm, stay healthy, and just protect yourself. Whatever is happening, we can't do nothing about it, but it will fix. In Jesus' name.
Wonderful, the angel. Great to see the way you have been approaching it, both as a parent and as a citizen of Jamaica. That's the way to go, the positive way. That's the line we are taking. And we're glad to know that you are encouraging those of us who are panicking to stay calm and remain calm for the rest of this ordeal.
Thanks, the angel. Thanks very much.
Most definitely, because what your mind conceives, it you will believe, and it will happen to you. So once your mind stays free and clear, and say, boy, this will pass over, me I go, all right, in Jesus' name, I'm going to be, just do the right things to keep yourself healthy and prosperous. And you'll be fine. And just continue to stay prayed up and pray for your nation and your brothers people. That's all.
Enough respects, as I say. Thanks for linking with us. All the best to you. Great having you.
All right, so we have some more questions coming in, and of course, we also have callers. We're going to be coming to you as well. So I have 3 questions here. 2 of them, I think, pretty similar. If I should catch the virus, can I be infected by it again? And then there's a second question that goes, they don't have any cure for the virus, so after the persons are quarantined for 14 days, what's next?
All right. So the first question is we're not sure. So the answer is, can we get a reinfection? Which we're not sure. The viruses are 3 months old, and we're still gathering data as to whether or not that will happen. So the best thing to say we're not sure. The second question is, what's the purpose of quarantine you for the 14 days or whatever? So quarantine is really just to put healthy people there who are not symptomatic, who we want to watch more closely to see if they become sick. And it's a way to part of what we call the containment strategy, the way we use to try and prevent the virus from spreading around in the community. So it's actually a very important tool that we use to try and prevent spread.
And of course, after the 14 days, it would still be important to be careful.
That's
because
correct.
you could know, having not had it before, go and get
That is correct.
All right, the telephone lines are still open. We have a call online. Garfield calling in from Paratown. Hello, Garfield.
Hello, good night.
Yes, sir, good night.
Yeah, I'm talking about the police and the transport authorities. I mean, them on the road, the government say nothing about them.
What is it you expect the government to say about them, sir?
No, but I take precaution and certain stuff like that because remember you on the road with people. I live alone, so I got to deal with people on the road, innit?
Yes, you have to. And in that regard, what?
No, the police and the transport, nobody say nothing about them, the government workers. Only the nurse alone, innit?
I think what he's saying is the Garfield High, the whole issue of protecting yourself. In other words, police officers who are doing traffic stops, preventing murders, doing
stuff like that.
All that kind of thing. Are they being protected? Do they have gear? What level of training have they received? Is it ongoing, that sort of thing? And of course, what's in place in case one or several of them fall sick? I think it's a very good question. It's a fair question to ask. I think all healthcare, or rather frontline workers, share that concern, Garfield. Our information comes from the briefings from the Office of the Prime Minister. It seems that it's a work in progress, but I think certainly from where most of us sit, we are in solidarity with the essential services. We want them to be protected because we don't want less police. We don't want more of a crime problem. So we want the police to be 100% healthy all the time, as with the traffic authority, that they are also able to do their job to maintain law and order on the street. So I think I would support your call to make sure that they have all the things they need right across the board. But I'm not sure that any of us here tonight can say the extent to which they do or don't have, but certainly support and join the call that those who are facing the greatest danger have all the things they need to protect themselves and preserve life.
And I doubt whether a responsible government would allow something like this just to hang out there as a sore thumb. So I think they would have anticipated something like this.
I know people got to buy their own protective gear.
Well, the government, one of the things the Prime Minister announced today, Evan, was that a contract was approved by Cabinet, I suspect today, 2.2 million US, I think, and that they would expect the gear by next week, I think it was. Stand corrected on that, but I think that was what he said, that at least the contract, and they're trying to get the gear here by next week.
But it's a great point you're highlighting, Garfield.
Right. So, Garfield, just to reassure you that in everything else is what we call a risk assessment. What is the likelihood of you getting a particular illness? And the level of gear that you need is really based upon the best guess estimate of what that risk is. For the vast majority of individuals, including individuals who are on the front line, for the most part, depending on what their specific task is, the most important defense they can have is the simple things that we tell you. Wash hands, don't touch your face, and do those things and social distance and stay as far apart as possible in your interaction. For the most part, that will protect the vast majority of us. If you're in a more precarious position, then you will need to have some of these protective gears that you will hear us talking about. But as I said, it's what we call a risk assessment.
All right, Garfield. I seem to have
Seems
left
to have
us.
lost him. All right, I have another question here.
Starrett is calling in from Yorton.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Youth and the rest of the panel.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Yes. One of the things that I would like to point out is that a lot of us try to hustle off our budget when we're in a crisis, half our people when we're in a crisis like this. Like I went to buy some bleach the other evening and I was asking the person, but I don't smell anything and I don't feel any little slipper in it. People are diluting these things. And what they need to know is that when you dilute the thing, it cannot work against the virus.
Yeah,
So
it
we need
loses its
not to-
purpose, doctors.
So, I think we need to begin trying our best to educate persons. Sometimes you have to take drastic action, like the government needs to send out the health person them and check some of these places and see if they are doing the right thing, especially retail bleach and such like that.
Quite in order, sir. Quite in order.
Very, 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 very good point, and thanks for bringing it up. So we're urging people, do not dilute the products because it won't help, and all of us are going to be in trouble in the long run.
That is
Excuse me,
correct.
because me think of me quarantine myself and clean my place, and when I realize the product no work, I'm carry the virus go there and give somebody.
I saw some water you was wiping it.
You understand what I say?
Yeah, but my grandmother had a phrase for
It's
that.
something I don't know how we can try begin educating our person or people, because something happened where I believe with chicken gunya, this were start to be used and people get all PSC. You know, so we have to see how best we can begin.
Yeah, man, and
trying
as
our best to
Dr.
educate the
Alexis said, we have to be our brother's keepers.
people. Right.
Thanks so much for calling.
Yeah, man.
All right, I have Laverne from Albertown, and this would be Trelawney. She says, I have a lot of customers to deal with. If I talk to them through the window, can I catch it? So this sounds like a shopkeeper, corner shop sort of scenario, maybe.
Yes. So our main understanding of the transmission of this virus is that you have to have what we call close physical contact or be exposed to droplet spread. So talking through a shop window should not cause you to be infected unless it is that you go and touch the window and then touch your face. So in a sense, that would be relatively bit safe. I know some shop windows have more like a chicken coop mesh, and in which case everybody put them nose up and them mouth against
or a
the
little
chicken
hole
coop.
where you just put a
Yeah.
hand.
Those
And cut it
scenarios,
in two
then,
slices of bread.
those scenarios, yeah, and you're more likely to become infected or can become infected that way. So again, it depends on the structure and so on.
And Laverne, just continue to wipe down the counter, the window, the chicken mesh, whatever it is. Whatever surfaces are there, just keep wiping them. Apart from protecting yourself, it protects customers who come after, because we know that the virus can last hours, maybe days, and we want to make sure that you're not transmitting through your shop to the community inadvertently.
On the matter of the, sorry, Prof, on the matter of the wiping down, so if, let us say, Laverne or the other shopkeeper has a bucket with the bleach water, can she be dipping into that same water and wiping, or is it fresh water every time?
All right. So the issue is that we usually say that you make up the bleach daily. So you really don't need to do it more than that. For most surfaces, a traditional bleach or bleach diluted to 1 in 10 should be more than adequate to just wipe it down and protect
For the
yourself.
entire day. What I want to be clear about, if let's say Laverne has a little bucket and she sort her thing out, and she has the first 10 customers and she wipes, for example, does she throw away that water and get fresh bleach water, or can she use that for the rest of the day?
So it's why we use the spray bottles, so that you're able to apply what you need and then wipe, changing the rag. Because if not, what she has done, if you're using a bucket, so in other words, if you're listening and you have the bucket, and you take the rag and it clean in the morning, and you wipe the counter, you put those germs inside the bucket, and you keep putting it sort of in a cycle. Even though the bleach should kill it, you can still have a situation where the bleach is deactivated. Interesting point. Lots of people like to use hot water and believe that heat helps. But hot water deactivates bleach. So very important that you don't do both. And what's the more effective of the two is the bleach water, as Marvin said, diluting 1 in 10. So
9 parts of water to 1 part of bleach.
And spray bottling it is the best
right,
route.
or sprinkle it. In other words, if you don't have a spray bottle, if you put it in a regular bottle and you don't lock the cap completely, and you kind of just shake it. We do it in other areas.
And you can also bore holes in the top.
Right.
Oh, you can do that too. As well.
We want to change the rag. What are we telling her?
Yes.
Ideally, should you use something that's disposable?
Okay.
So you really shouldn't. We try and avoid using rags because, again, it becomes a source of fluoride. So ideally, something that you can discard and throw away after a wipe.
Or cut it in 2 or 3 or 4 if you have to stretch it. But the idea is to have a clean rag each time you use a new solution.
So washing out the rag, we just want to reach these people. So washing out the rag.
Washing out the rag is fine.
Okay.
So if you use it and then wash it out back and then go again, that's fine.
That's fine.
Kavisha from St. Mary's Online. Hello.
Hello, good night.
Good night. How are you doing?
Okay.
What's the question for the doctors?
They are saying that teachers will still be teaching children online. So what about the children who does not have online facilities at home?
All right, so that's a good question. Unfortunately, it's not in our areas of specialty, so I can only answer you as a parent. My understanding is that the plan is for schools that can afford or have the infrastructure to allow online teaching, they will do that. For other schools that doesn't have that, the idea, I think, is to use some form of public broadcasting thing to try and help them to do their lessons and so on. And I think they're also supposed to be negotiating with the telecommunications providers to help in disseminating some of the school lessons. But you have to understand that the virus didn't give us much time to prepare. And so you have to make pragmatic or practical decisions. What is more important? And the most important thing now is to protect the vast majority of us from becoming sick. That's the most important thing. At some point in time, we'll catch up. Whether we're going to use the summer or we're going to use whatever, we'll catch up. We don't have to worry about that part.
Okay, thank you.
All right, caller. Thanks for your call. Derek in Oxford, Balaclava, St. Elizabeth, wants to know if you can become infected by touching the clothing of an infected person.
All right, so it's not really touch per se. The touch is just a way of transmitting the germ to yourself. So the issue is once your hands become contaminated or you inhale the droplets from somebody who is sick, that's when you can become ill. So it doesn't matter whether it's the clothes, whether it's the surface, the doorknob, the bathroom, toilet, flush thing, it doesn't really matter. Once your hands become contaminated or you breathe in the virus that's floating in the air because somebody had just coughed or sneezed, you will become sick.
Also to that, Derek, as a doctor, we well, certainly all of us essentially work with germs every day. So, one of the habits I have, not sure what you do, is to take off my clothes as I get home, right at the door, strip down. First thing I do is hold afresh. So that my kids, my wife, persons that are at my home don't get any germs inadvertently. So while it's important to know the actual science of how it's transmitted, just a good habit. If you're a construction worker or maybe you are a transport operator, meeting persons, interacting with persons, maybe you're a police officer or even, working in a tax office somewhere. Good idea, dealing with anything with germs, take off your clothes. As soon as you get home, entering the home, I remember my grandfather was a doctor. He actually took off his clothes in the yard and then washed outside before coming inside. I can't do it that way, but I think that the principle is the sooner you can take off anything that can be contaminated or remove contamination from your own body, the better in general.
Mm-hmm. Gentlemen, there are some persons who are saying, well, I'm home. I'm not leaving home. Some will lock themselves inside their houses and so on. what sort of advice you have for those persons? Because obviously, they would have self quarantined.
Yeah. So to some extent that is okay. So some extent that is okay because again, as part of the containment strategy, you're trying to encourage individuals to stay home, to self quarantine, so to speak, so you don't pass the virus. However, at some point in time, you're not going to be able to function. The economy needs to go on. People have to move about. So it is okay in the very short term, as a short term what we call intervention or solution to a problem, but ultimately you're going to have to go. If you're doing it because you're afraid, because boy, you don't want anything happen, usually that's when bad things happening. But if you're doing it because it's a part of a plan or a strategy, things will work through usually.
All right, we'll go straight back to the telephone lines. Caller line, you're live. This is Irie. Hello.
Hello, good night.
Yes, sir.
Man, as I respect for you all at the studio.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes, man, go ahead.
Suppose you tell us, I guess to understand,
Good I hear you, man.
The disease that we are going around, you know, next year, I'm going to come in with the vaccine for it, you know.
Okay, so you're asking about the vaccine and when they will come out about the vaccine. So let me just briefly explain how these things tend to work. So essentially when you have a germ, especially viral germs, most of the times there's no specific medicines or drug that we have to kill it. And so our best tool for it is for us to boost your immune system. And so we create what is called a vaccine, which is really just a chemical or injection to make your immune system more active or stronger against the germ. The thing about it is that some viruses, the vaccine is very effective. So you get the vaccine, you'll never get this particular germ at all again in your life. For some, what the vaccine does is make sure that if you do get infected, then the disease that you suffer is very mild compared to what we call the wild type. So right now, as with every viral diseases, there are scientists around the world who are trying to create vaccine. But it takes time because once you've created a chemical in the lab, you have to test it on people to see if it actually works. So you may have seen reports in the literature and in the world press about the first person getting a vaccine today. It takes much more time to get data to find out if this vaccine is actually going to be effective. So some people are optimistic that we'll have a vaccine next year. I'm not that optimistic. But the long and short about it is that eventually we may get a vaccine that may work. We won't know yet. HIV has been with us now for almost 2 or 3 decades. We still yet haven't found a vaccine for it. We have flu. We do have a vaccine for flu, but what that vaccine does is that it more boosts your immune system and makes sure that if you do get flu, it is not as bad. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Caller, you're still there?
Yeah, man. I'm not finished talking to me.
Then talk, no, man.
Yeah, man. Me that say. Yeah, yes, my general. Yeah, you're my general.
Yes, man. We're hearing you. Go ahead, man.
I mean, that say, me have one relative over Europe that tells me, say, you don't know, say, the African people, them hard to catch it like that because them strong, you know, and so forth, you know. You know, I mean, if I tell me, say, the details not really good and thing, but, you know, I highlight me so about something. I forgot how I name still, you know, when I highlight me about something.
All right.
Yeah, but...
So I would just want to address the issue about black people and whether or not we have any special immunity against this flu. As a black man, I would wish that to be true, but unfortunately, we don't know. As I said, the virus is relatively young. It's roughly about 3 months old. It's just about reaching areas in the world that have a lot of black people. And sooner or later, we'll figure out whether or not it will or will not. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not optimistic. Because the flu licks down everybody, whether it be white man, black man, Chinaman, Indian, coolie, it doesn't matter, it licked it down. So I'm not optimistic that being black is necessarily going to be very protective. But to answer your question specifically, in another few months, another year or so, we will have data to either support or refute it. Having said that, I would suggest that strongly that you don't depend on your blackness to prevent you from getting sick. Follow the advice. Wash your hand, right?
Yeah, I believe in that as well.
Okay. All right, good.
All right, caller.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
One more thing before I leave. More leave this with you guys.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes,
man. Go ahead, man.
I take them scholars that want to take over the world because they know say Earth is powerful, you know, and have everything, you know, gold and everything, you know. So they want to take over Earth, you know. So they build some stuff to kill off people, you know. So them stay, you know.
All right. So the short answer is that I don't know. I always tell my friends that if I were going to devise a virus that's going to kill off the whole world, I would not use COVID. Because the mortality, the case fatality on it is only less than 2 to 3%. If I'm going to do something that's going to kill off the people, my case fatality must be close to almost 100%. When you get it, you must dead. So I don't believe in this philosophy that it's a virus created by anybody, whether white, black, blue, or green, that is trying to kill off anybody. It's just a freak of nature.
Because the Earth have everything in it. So they can't ice up at any time, look. They can't go other planets, you know. And then so on, so.
All right, my son. You're interesting.
All right, caller. Rough respect, yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Going to another commercial break.
Higher level business.
Yes, man.
Reggae Radio, Irie FM.
Bashko time.
Curamine Plus will remove inflammation from the body. Tanquest is a combination of herbs and fruits to remove toxins and pathogens from the body. Get your Curamine Plus and Tanquest from Havco Herbs and Extracts. 540-8871.
The time by Havco Curamine and Tanquest is
9:30.
Reggae Radio, Irie FM.
Welcome back, listeners, to our forum, our Coronavirus Community Preparedness Forum. Hope you have been enjoying the discussion, and certainly we have had some participation. Just reminding you of the numbers: 974-5051, 974-5079, 974-5043, or 618-0352. And if you're going via WhatsApp, it's 876-838-2405.
One of the things, Natalie.
We're going into another break.
Reggae Radio, Irie FM.
It's yummy time. Everyone is losing control. For you missing him, have a little bubbly in your tummy, and it's nothing funny. I forget a cinnamon roll from young yummy. Big people can't talk, school picnic can't study. I forget a cinnamon roll. So whether it's the bakery or supermarket, shut down the lane, cinnamon roll we a target. Everyone is losing control. For you missing cinnamon roll. Yummy cinnamon roll.
Come to Boscobel Hardware, Stewart Town, St. Mary for all your renovation and construction needs. Paint, electrical, plumbing, roofing, tiles, tools, and so much more. Call us 810-6986. Boscobel Hardware, where every day is a sale day.
Come to North Coast Electrical and Hardware, Main Street, Rockabessa, St. Mary. We stock the widest variety of building materials such as lumber, steel, cement, pipes. Also one of the largest distributors of sift sand, wash sand, and stone. We're open Monday to Saturday, 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And on Sundays, yes, Sundays, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Call 726-1411 or
876-912-3171.
We deliver. North Coast Electrical and Hardware. Check us. You won't forget us.
Tropical Race 4 TR4 disease. This is a soil-borne disease which has the ability to wipe out with banana and planting crops, you know. So everybody keep this in mind, cause this is a disease that we make we can't eat no good food, you know. So farmers, no make anybody come on your farm, and who have to come must disinfect them shoes before them set foot on your farm. And when they leave, people, if you decide to travel to go foreign, please no visit no banana planting or heliconia farm, and no care about none of the plants at Jamaica. If you must go on a farm or foreign, leave the clothes and shoes that you wore on the farm leave it a foreign. And if any of your banana or planting plants them start to look wilted or sick, call the banana board quick. 922-5347 or 922-5490. Prevention better than cure, you know? And there is no cure. A long life and health with every Jamaican banana and planting, you know? We need to secure them. So Tropical Race 4, take away yourself. That me tell them.
EBIS Document and Service Hub Limited is offering Heart Trust certified programs in early childhood, customer service, data processing, and geriatric care. We also offer services in graphic design, poster, banners, car sticker, t-shirt, cup and plate printing, and logo design. Call EBIS Document and Service Hub at 633-0967 or 633-0959 or email ebislimited@outlook.com. Visit us at Serby Complex, Town, St. Mary.
Reggae Radio, Irie FM.
Welcome back to our Coronavirus Community Preparedness Forum. We have Professor Marvin Reed with us. He's a researcher and family physician. We also have with us Dr. Shane Alexis, and he brings with us his fabulous sense of pedigree as it relates to the medical field. So there's no doubt about our discussion this evening. The coronavirus really certainly taking Jamaica, not necessarily by storm, is it, Doc?
Well, just a quick comment on the last caller, the higher level argument. The truth is that, and I want to make this point to people listening, we're here to help those who don't know. Not everyone has the same level of exposure or the same experiences. And so we want to dispel myths, misinformation, and replace it with facts and good information. Information that makes you safe in your community, makes you safe in your home. The truth is, as I was discussing with Marvin earlier, is that it may be that our numbers start off slow and then pick up dramatically. And in some countries, it's been not the opposite, but where they start off pretty quick and then it levels off a little bit. We don't know. It's too early to tell, and the numbers are too small to really break down. But what we have to be is prepared. Preparation starts years in advance, really. I'm of the view that our health sector must be invested in, not seen as a cost, but an investment, so that anytime something comes along, we are at a high level of preparation, just like the army is for, against, man-made attacks. We have to be prepared for diseases, illnesses of any sort, and make sure that the population is aware, make sure we have infrastructure, make sure we're motivated to take on those issues.
Begs the question, how prepared are we for this one?
That's for the next program.
All right, we have a call in line. Call in line?
Yes, man, Robert.
No, this is Evan.
Evan, go on, General.
We're here, man.
I want to come back from the bush with the coronavirus, and I come from the bush, brother. I run over the end of the time, I die puppy and some food,
Yeah?
Yeah, run coronavirus, but we find cure for it,
What you use?
I tell you, Rasta, I find me Guinea Rasta, and me have a little honey,
So share the formula with us, no?
Yeah, me have honey and me have me ginger Rasta. Me I tell you, say coronavirus can't turn it Rasta.
Okay.
So, home remedy is working now.
All right. So what I'm hearing is your honey, your Guinean weed, as your main base formula, and that's okay, But provided that when you do that, you do some of what we're telling you to do. And so what we're saying is that when you go home, before you're going to come in from the bush, take off the clothes, get a good shower, all right? Water fresh, all right? And make sure you wash your hand.
Pack one night, me carry me look one puppy, so me say me not look it out behind me.
Look here, dog.
Okay.
Yes, man, I'm in food pot, everything.
All right.
But
Well,
mosquito would have killed me.
all right. Well, I want to remind you that even though we have COVID that's going around, dengue is still here. Dengue is endemic in Jamaica, and therefore you should try and avoid getting bitten by mosquitoes, because the long and short of it is dengue is not a nice friend. All right?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Take care, Papa.
Yeah, take care, my servant.
Yeah, all right.
So that's a very good point that Marvin has raised, that we have to whistle and ride. We still have diabetes, we still have hypertension, we still have dengue, we still have gunshot, we still have stabbings. There are a lot of things that, you know, the healthcare system has to deal with at this time. As patients and responsible citizens, cleaning up your environment, making sure the mosquito breeding sites are eliminated. Just quickly to remind persons, anything that can catch water, it stays stagnant there for some time. The eggs can survive in the dry, for the Aedes aegypti that is. So when it rains, as we're getting rain in St. Mary, parts of Portland and other places, we can see an increase in the mosquito breeding population. And I think the dengue cycle starts in about April, May. Which is not too far from now. So we want to just remind persons that COVID is not the only show in town. There are many other things going on, and don't ignore or forget what we've been trying to teach you about protecting yourself healthcare-wise all of this time. We just want to bring to your attention tonight the current threat of COVID-19, but we will continue to remind persons from time to time about all the other healthcare threats there are, but don't ignore all the other information that you've been getting.
All right, and talking about mosquitoes, we've got a question here. Can mosquitoes spread the virus?
Not this one. Not this one.
That's an easy one. So we blame the mosquito for a lot of things. But in this case, as far as we know, not for COVID-19.
All right, another question. I have a 5-year-old who has asthma. If he gets the virus, how do I go about it?
It's still the same way, irrespective of whether it's a child or it's an adult. The process is still the same. If you think that you may have gotten the illness at all, it's best for you to call the Ministry of Health hotline that they've given you, which is the 888 One Love number, and speak to the rep there, who would then do a sort of a triage. If they suspect that you fit the criteria, they will then come for the child and have the child appropriately assessed and tested.
Mm-hmm. When Marvin says come for the child, I think sometimes, you know, from a medical perspective, when we say that, we mean come to help. But persons listening might think, boy, look here, I don't want them to take me to some hospitals because I guess some I got dead. That's not true. Help is the only way to save your life sometimes. And I've seen persons die from asthma in real life. It's a very traumatic experience for all those involved. If you're asthmatic, make sure you're following all the advice you got in terms of your preventative pump. And if you find that you're coming down with just a regular infection, follow the instructions your doctor gave you with your 2 puffs once or twice a day, as the case may be. Where you see that you're starting to have difficulties, in the case of a child where they're blowing short or you're seeing their ribs, you know, every time they breathe, reach out to the helpline and try to get help. Don't sit trying to treat asthma on your own because you're afraid that your child will be taken from you. Not the case. It's really taken to help.
All right. We have a call online, so we go straight to the phone lines. Hello, caller.
Hi, good night.
Good night, sir.
Yeah, I'm just calling on behalf of 2 young kids that I have.
Yeah, man. What's wrong with them?
I just want to know how serious is this coronavirus can affect the young child. Because I have a twin where they're just 4 months old.
All right, so the youngest child that I've heard with the coronavirus is a child that just born a while ago, a couple of days ago in the UK. Certainly, when we look at the Chinese data, they have had children who are as young as your child. And the reassuring thing that they have said is that none of the children that young have died so far. So in a child, although they may become sick, the data is supportive of the fact that they will recover and run around and do much better than us as adults.
Caller, you're still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you got the information, sir?
Yes, thanks.
What's your name? What's your name, caller?
And where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Coffee Peace District in St. Mary in Sheehan Division.
Okay.
Just to say to you, as Professor Reed has said, also keep your eyes open. You know, common sense is important. They're your children. If you see something that look wrong, it's just not adding up. What is called corona or dengue or pneumonia or anything else, you reach out, try and get help. Don't just sit on your own hoping or saying, boy, you heard a radio program and them say. You understand what I mean? You keep open your eyes, and if you see your children in difficulty or one of them, because twins have their own risks of developing certain issues, as any other child would, just want to encourage you as parents to, you know, use your intuition, use your common sense, look at your child. When in doubt, reach out for help. The only thing that can happen is that we say, nothing to worry about, here's a little help.
All right, Papa?
Yeah, man. Thanks
All
for your
right.
encouragement.
Respect,
yeah?
sir. Yeah, man. All right.
Thanks for accepting me.
Yeah, man. Good.
All right, and that point that Dr. Alexis made is very important, because there are many people who, with various illnesses over time, have sat down at home and it's like,
Yeah, watch a little bit.
Yeah, watch a little bit, yeah. And I think a lot of people are afraid of doctors and afraid of the hospital situation, so they just sit around and wait. But the ministry says, while you wait, if you see a change, if you're getting worse, if it's becoming more acute, then call for help. How long does this virus stay in your body? Can we tell that yet?
Again, it's a relatively new virus, and so we're accumulating more and more information about it. So what we do know is that most people will recover probably within a week or so of having gotten their infections. However, just to reassure the listeners that the protocol that the ministry is currently using is that once it is that you have been identified with the virus, they will not discharge you to home into the community until the tests are negative. All right, so anybody who comes into a hospital, has the virus, we're not letting them out until the test is negative. Now, having said that, there is some descriptions of people who have been having the virus for at least a month and a half. But the average person is not going to be longer than about a week or so.
So can this actually be cured? The virus be cured?
So at this point in time, what we say is that your cure for us means that you have gotten a particle illness and never to get it again in the future. We can't, because the future is not here yet. Mm-hmm. What we can say is that you get the virus and you will recover. And by recovery means that once it is that we have tested you, you are negative. You have no signs of the virus in your body.
So there are going to be some people who just never see the doctor then?
Yes, so we do know, which is why we said the case fatality rate is a very high number unnecessarily, because there are a lot of people who are going to get the virus and never see us. We're never going to see the light of day.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Natalie, you know, so I've been listening to the conversation, obviously I'm here. But, you know, persons listening would wonder, well, how we know what we know? I mean, and Marvin has used a word that is used, he's at the university, and Marvin is, though very humble, is actually a very big deal at the University of the West Indies. Data, this question of data, persons here, data, what is data? Well, in the same way that a man knows end of month Friday, certain things will sell. The same way you know that full moon, you plant certain things. This is based on, you know, your own experience again and again. And the more you do it, the more you're able to observe if it is true. So in medicine, the more patients we are able to see, the more we're able to document, write down. So every time a man have a cough and him have fever, this happens. And then every time a man have fever alone, or every time a man have a cough alone, what happened? And if you do that 100 times, you know something. But if you do it 10,000 times, you know more. And if you do it 100,000 times, you know more. And when you're done with that, you say, well, how many years you do that for? So the more information we can collect, that is why Marvin is here today, because as a researcher, he's accustomed to looking at lots of times things happen and then what conclusion you can bring from it. It is not just guessing or what we think is common sense. It's what the facts show. So persons listening must understand that all of this is data driven. It's driven by the number of experiences we've had and persons writing it down and then sharing it across countries.
Same thing we call scientific facts.
Yes.
All right, and we're going into another commercial break, so we'll be back in a minute.
Reggae Radio, Irie FM.
Real deal windows and doors, UPVC and aluminium patio, shower and closet doors, sliding and push-up window casements and louvers, awnings and much more. Real deal windows and doors, Main Street, Tower Isle, St. Mary, 328-8760-867-9349.
Easter times are coming and the buns are being baked. So many buns to choose from, but only one to take home. HTV is the one that's got that baked in quality. Full of fruits and raisins, soft and sweet as a bun can be. So when you're buying Easter buns, look out for HTV. That's the one that's got the taste that's guaranteed to please. HTV bun.
Mondays 9 to 11 p.m. on Reggae Radio IRFM. We take control of the sporting landscape with What's the Score? What's the Score? Delightfully bold yet tantalizingly attractive sporting discussions adorn the airwaves, waxing lyrically at times.
This situation, I am making a presentation with an intention to get the attention of all Jamaicans whose recreation is to engage in conversation about our national sporting administration.
We leave no page unturned. We're even biblical.
When Jesus was on earth, healing the sick, making the blind see again, making those who couldn't walk again, they crucified him.
For even the young sporting minds, they too have their story, highlighting glory.
I felt overwhelmed to represent Jamaica for the first time. I dreamt about it and it has come early.
What's the Score? What's the Score? Brought to you courtesy of
Yummy, best in value, best in taste.
Ocho Rios Sports Center, Main Street, Ocho Rios, your highest and coastal parts specialist. Now stock Mazda and Subaru. Hard to get parts.
Germany's car sales. 33 Foreshore Road, Port Antonio and White River, Ocho Rios. Free Hawkeye tracking for 6 months. Free fitness and valuation. Financing available. Call 822-6569. And Bashco, the store that gives you more. What's the Score? Another Irie FM sports production.
If you want a state of rapture, it's the color that you capture. With Sherwin-Williams Color Snap, use your phone and get the app. Sherwin-Williams, Sherwin-Williams. It's all the colors in your mind, all the colors you can find. A shining star within your home, and all you do is use your phone. Sherwin-Williams, Sherwin-Williams. The colors that you've seen and the colors that you dream, your imagination will unwrap with Sherwin-Williams Color Snap. Sherwin-Williams, putting more color in your life.
It's yummy time. Everyone is losing control. For you missing him, have a little bubbly in your tummy, and it's nothing funny. I forget a cinnamon roll from young and yummy. Big people can't talk, school picnic can't study. I forget a cinnamon roll. So whether it's the bakery or supermarket, shut down the lane, cinnamon roll we a target. Everyone is losing control. For you missing cinnamon roll. Yummy, yummy cinnamon roll.
Everybody feel irate when they listen to irate. Everybody love irate.
Welcome back to our Coronavirus Community Preparedness Forum. Natalie, time is certainly striding out on us.
Yeah, we're down to maybe the last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, so there are lots of important matters that we have to get clarified before the end of the night. And one of the burning questions, as I understand it, has to do with sex.
You mean one of your burning questions, Emma?
So how this whole sex thing come into play as it relates to the virus and somebody catching it and trying to utilize it to say that maybe it can actually cure the virus. Just like them saying that ganja can cure it too.
Well, I don't know about any of those things, whether ganja or sex. So we do know that when the virus comes, it has a love for your airway passages, and that's why it ends up in your lung. So the question is, okay, so you're home. Can I have sex? The long and short is yes. It depends on why you're home. So if you're home because the ministry has put you under quarantine, then by definition, no, because you're supposed to be away from other individuals, lest you transmit the illness. But if you're home because you're not an essential worker for your plant and you're trying to do social distancing, then yeah, we expect you to have a little piece here and there. So that's not unusual. But the thing that we would suggest is that you would avoid kissing, you'd avoid oral sex, because that's where the virus is going to be.
Already, and we have some more callers. Good evening.
Hello, caller. No, that one dropped out on us. Doc, you wanted to say something, Dr. Alexis? You wanted to make your contribution.
Is that set up thing?
Dr. Reed was actually winking to me. I said, "Put him on."
I set up thing. Well, I think the message remains though. Safe sex, safe and responsible sex. HIV is still out there in the community, and as well as pregnancy. We don't want to have a population explosion in a few months because persons were in quarantine. So to the women listening, all the usual birth control methods you would normally use, don't relax them now. And to the men, protect yourself and also support the women with good decisions and be responsible, even when we're under pressure with COVID-19.
That's the operative term, be responsible.
All right, going back to the phone lines. Hello?
Yes, hello?
Yes, could you speak up
first?
Are you hearing me?
Better.
Yes, we're hearing you.
Yeah, man. It's a good night. Hello, good night. I'm calling from Portland.
Okay.
Yes, and I was just calling to clear up something I was watching the other day. I was watching this doctor talk about this whole corona thing and the effect it is having on the country and stuff, and he was saying that they're saying it's a flu, right?
Yes, it behaves like a flu. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, so he was saying that the symptoms, which is the respiratory symptoms that corona has on people, is actually linked to breathing problems, as in he's saying that the major problem is actually the 5G towers that was recently activated in China and all over Europe. So he's saying that these 5G towers, research was done on these towers saying that if these towers were to be activated, people would start having respiratory problems. There are videos in Europe and China of people falling flat on their face without having any symptoms of any flu or anything. So they're saying that this corona thing is actually a cover-up. So I wanted to ask, where did it come from?
All right, so those are all very good questions. So let's see if I can address them. So the first thing first is that you are querying or asking whether or not radiation from a 5G tower or 4G tower or from a cell tower can cause lung damage. And so the short answer to that is that there's no direct scientific evidence of that as we speak. It may occur.
No, but in the video I was watching, they clearly showed different scientists that were experimenting on this.
All right, so let me just explain how these things work. So people are free to say anything. I can say I'm a Superman. I can say I run 9.95. I'm free to say anything in a video shot. That's just how life is. But how we analyze things is that we look at what is published, what is written, what can be verified. And what I'm saying is that in that atmosphere, in that arena, that we don't have any data that suggests that there is significant lung damage from the radiation from the cell tower.
But the data is there though. The research is
all right,
there.
that's fine. So I'll accept that you accept that, but I don't accept it. All right. So let's agree to disagree.
All right. So the other thing he was saying is that the symptoms that they're saying corona virus
produces, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. He's saying that those symptoms are not flu-like symptoms, because he's saying that those symptoms are not normally attached to flu. So he's saying that corona, this whole corona thing as a flu is not real.
All right. So here's what I'm saying. You can choose to believe who you wish to believe. It's just
No,
like,
I'm not choosing to believe. I'm asking you to
right. And so the point I'm making to you is that what we say is that once it is that you become infected, you will develop certain kinds of symptoms. The symptoms that you will have are fever.
But they said that even before the symptoms, you can have corona, right? Even before showing the symptoms.
All right, so how all infections work is that you get the virus in your system, the virus multiplies, and then after it reaches a certain level...
Wait, how do you get it in your system? Isn't that virus a solvent?
No. A virus is a very small particle that you cannot see with your naked eye. You usually need to use it in an electron microscope.
Yeah, but how do you get it in your body?
You get it into your body in this particular case by introducing it through your mouth, your nose, or your eyes. So typically what will happen is that somebody would cough or sneeze, you'll breathe in the virus.
Okay, that person that coughed and sneezed, where did he get it from?
He would have gotten it from somebody. So there's always a patient zero. So there's always
where did patient zero get it from? That's the thing.
All right, son. So where did the creation come from? At some point in time, you have to say that something existed. In this particular case, we think that this virus is a cousin of another virus which normally lives in animals.
So you're telling me that you guys think, so you guys don't know 100% then. You know that even on the ships that they had the corona patients, those 5G towers are set up on those ships. Do you know that?
All right, so let's agree to disagree. So you're a 5G tower guy who believes in radiation, and you think that's what's causing the problem.
So you don't believe in radiation then?
I've already stated that. No, I don't. So I'm agreeing to disagree with you. All right? All right, thank you so much. Are you a doctor? Yes, sir. I'm actually a doctor who trains other doctors.
And you don't believe in radiation?
I believe in radiation, and I know the harm that radiation can do. But where it comes to...
Listen to me. They research and they can show there are facts that
okay, sir. You can... I can ask the producer for you to share that information after we're finished. But I'll agree to disagree.
Wait, one more point. Listen to me. The towers that they activated...
All right. I heard you in the first time, and I accept what you have said, but I've said that I've agreed to disagree.
All right, caller, we have to go now. Thanks. All right.
I think one of the things, Evan, having heard that caller, I have personally just decided that I'm not going to taking as many of these things that are on social media, because everybody and anybody puts anything on there, creates videos, creates all kinds of content and information.
Conspiracy theories.
And it's confusing to people all around. Because 1 minute you're reading something and another minute somebody else changes it. So you have to be careful what you watch and believe. What is the authenticity of the source?
I think what is salient is that a lot of information would have been disseminated tonight on our program. And we just have to hope that it has gone into good ground and people would have taken the advice that has been given, Natalie, and would have benefited tremendously from it. One of the things I personally wanted to find out from Dr. Alexis, although he's a politician too, is how come, where did this thought generate from that you're going to have a forum of this nature?
Well, I studied medicine in Cuba, and there's a social consciousness that comes with that kind of training. And and over the years, I've found a strong partner and a knowledgeable partner in Marvin and others who aren't here this evening. We had a contribution of Bishop Gordon, we had Dr. Miller, and of course yourselves here at the station, to join in a vision that we need to share the knowledge about health, change the way we talk about it from fear to positions of knowledge. In Cuba, with 100% literacy, it's amazing how much patients there know about themselves, their issues, and the medication. I'm not trying to make Jamaica into Cuba, just simply saying something I learned there, and I've tried to practice it as a professional. And, where you see something isn't being done, rather than complain about what isn't done, just try and find a partner, change the conversation to what is being done. Words like solidarity, encouragement, motivation, those are all things that I think all the country could use now, and with the support of friends and family, was able to get the show done. I think it's been a good evening, certainly from listening to the callers and the diversity of the participation. And I hope that others will follow. I can't do a show every week or all the time. This is just us putting, the resources forward to do it as a public service for the country. But I hope others will see the partnership that we've brought, the casual nature that we've been able to impart knowledge in a relaxed format, and let people feel more at ease to just share their thoughts and their experiences. And I hope that this station and others will continue to do this kind of work. It's what the country needs now.
Wonderful. Dr. Reed, having participated in this forum, how do you feel?
Well, as Shane alluded to, in a sense, I represent the University of the West Indies. And one of the things that we're trying to build in our Faculty of Medical Sciences is this whole concept of social accountability. So he calls it solidarity. We have a best fancier term for it. But it's really to say that the university is just not a place for you to learn. But we do have a social mission to try and ensure that we uplift the society as well as one of our primary stakeholders. So Shane and I have been doing this now for quite a few years when we were in Medical Association. And we just think it's part of our mission to ensure that we help our fellow citizens enjoy better health, because health is an investment.
Mm-hmm. One thing we here at IRFM would love is that as this virus continues, if it would be possible later on down, based on the development, to have you guys back again with us for another program similar to this one. Any possibility? Any early commitments?
I don't know if I can afford it, boss.
But certainly it has been a pleasure working with you guys tonight. Natalie?
Yes, it has been, and we, as Evan said earlier, we do hope that the information you heard tonight will be beneficially put into practice and ensure that we all remain safe. So thanks to everybody, the DJ Kimar, telephone operator Vivian Stewart, producer Simone Brown Keys, Peter Broadwell, who did social media, Ted Roy Gordon, engineer Wilbert Wisdom, and to everybody who contributed tonight, Dr. Alexis, Professor Reed. Thanks so much for coming, and thanks to you for listening. I am Natalie Campbell.
And I just want to say to my IRFM What's the Score sports program listeners that we missed you tonight, but I'm sure we'll be back pretty soon. All the best, eh? And thanks to you both doctors for being with us.
Thank you as well.
Yes, have a great evening.
Okay, though.
All right, signing out.
Reggae Radio, Irie FM.
Everybody feel irate when they listen to irate. Everybody love irate.
Thursday afternoon from 12:15 to 1:15 on Easy Skanking. We heights up heart, mind, and soul to soul.
Then testosterone element. Show the wicked nation. Lightning.
Bashko time! All the things that you need for your home. Prices so low, you will never need a loan at Bashko.